So let's have a look at some of the facts and figures that surround this. And it looks like it was going so well, that opening day win against Aston Villa, wasn't it? But then these 3 straight defeats since, that minus 14 goal difference in there as well. The worst in Premier League history after 4 games. But is it more than results behind this story today?
You're absolutely right to point out the results, and you're absolutely right to say it's more than just results with regards to the club's decision to sack Scott Parker this morning after just 4 games. And I think it's been alluded to in the statement as to why the club have decided to make this change so early in the season. They reflect on 2 things. The alignment of strategy is one thing that they mention, and being sustainable is the other thing that they mention. Let's take a look at the alignment of strategy, which is essentially...
because this is really powerful, isn't it? Because it doesn't take much reading between the lines to try and work out what Maxim Demin is saying here. He says, for us to keep progressing as a team and a club as a whole, it is unconditional. Unconditional is a strong word, isn't it? That we are aligned in our strategy to run the club sustainably. We must also show belief in and respect for one another. So what you read into that was they weren't aligned and there wasn't respect between Scott Parker and those higher in the club than him. It is the only way you can read that, isn't it?
And you're right to read it that way. I do genuinely believe results are irrelevant in this situation because of the alignment in strategy. The football club has a fan base of between 5,000 and 10,000. They sell out the Vitality Stadium, which is capacitated at 11,700. This isn't a football club that has years and years of history in the top flight. They don't generate millions and millions of pounds in worldwide sales. This is a football club that's progressing and developing, and therefore their recruitment strategy and the money they spend has to be reflective in the money they receive. They have to abide by FFP like all Premier League sides. They have to respect the rules, and that means they can't go into the market like Nottingham Forest and spend £170 million on recruiting new players. They have to grow it in the right way. They have to do it in the right way. And clearly the club's philosophy hasn't matched up with what Scott Parker would like to do in this transfer window. Something that's really important to point out is when they got promoted in 2015, they had just 3 players with Premier League experience. This was a new experience for the football club, for Eddie Howe, the manager, and for that group of players. Whereas this scenario is very different. Promoted at the second time of asking, they have 11 players that have played in the Premier League before. The spine of the team has played in the Premier League. The likes of Lloyd Kelly, the captain, Jefferson Lerma, Philip Billing, Ryan Christie's played in the Scottish Premiership. Mark Travers has Premier League experience. Adam Smith has Premier League experience. And so does Dom Solanke, right through the middle at the top, who got 29 goals in the Championship last season. Those are players that the football club haven't needed to buy again. Whereas in comparison to Nottingham Forest, they are players that they've had to go out and buy. They lost a lot of players, they had to recruit new players and build a side that they thought was capable of competing in the Premier League. Bournemouth's situation's very, very different. They already had a really strong squad. So that's one of the things. Being sustainable is the other thing as well. The football club knows it has to be really careful with the money it spends. It can't just go into the market and recruit big players and spend huge amounts of money on wages. They have to be sensible and sustainable, and that's something that's really important to the football club. And the other word that I just want to pick out there in that statement, respect. You have to respect everyone. This football club's whole philosophy has been built on one thing: together, anything is possible. Right now, it doesn't feel like they're very together.
And respect, as you said, was one of those key words in there. One of the key words after that 9-0 defeat, though, that Scott Parker used was under-equipped, was the phrase that he used there. So let's have a look at the summer signings. They've made 5, spending 26 million in the process here. So talk us through these and why is he saying they're under-equipped then?
Well, let's take a look, like you say, at the signings they've made over the course of this summer. They acted really early to get 2 players in. Ryan Fredericks from West Ham, a free transfer, who, of course, had Premier League experience. He was a part of that David Moyes squad over the last couple of seasons that had the success in the Europa League, finished 6th and 7th in the Premier League. So that's a really good free transfer. Someone that Scott Parker, funnily enough, played with at Fulham, so he knew him very well. Joe Rothwell was one of the most exciting midfielders in the Championship. They tried to sign him in January and then got him on a free transfer this summer, so that will be seen as a really positive, good signing as well. Marcus Tavernier, a player that was very highly regarded, probably Middlesbrough's best player last season. Chris Wilder was really sorry to see him go. They've picked him up for £12.5 million. When you start to look at midfielders like Morgan Gibbs-White, who played in the Championship last season at Sheffield United, going for 42.5, that looks like exceptional business once again. And then let's look at these last two, and I love this. Bournemouth dealing with Barcelona and signing a Brazilian international in Neto on a free transfer, someone who could provide cover for Mark Travers, someone who could be the number one at Bournemouth. Excellent signing there. They now have three really good class goalkeepers. And then Marcus Senesi, another player that was very highly rated, just broken into the Argentina side from Feyenoord for £13.5 million. When you look at those five signings, you've got a good mix of experience, knowledge and age. You've got young potential, you've got experience, you've got international experience, and £26 million are spent. What does that mean though, Rob, when you look at the whole squad options? I know that Scott Parker has mentioned on a couple of occasions that the squad is a little bit threadbare, but this would perhaps say otherwise. We've mentioned the goalkeepers there. Travers, hugely promising young goalkeeper with a good little bit of experience in the Premier League, but was key for Bournemouth last season. Neto, enough said about a Brazilian international. Let's look at the defensive back line and the options they've got there. Jack Stacey's played in the Premier League, so has Ryan Fredericks. Mepham, Wales international. James Hill, England under-21, hugely promising. They brought him in from Fleetwood in January. Senesi and Kelly the captain, someone that's played in the Premier League as well, someone that's been linked with moves away from Bournemouth for in excess of £30 million. And then at the left back, Adam Smith, former Tottenham Academy product, someone who has been on the whole journey with Bournemouth. He was in the Premier League side for that 5 seasons. He can play at right back. He can play at left back. Jordan Zamora was the surprise package for last season. Perhaps wouldn't have got his opportunity if it wasn't for a few injuries and a few sales. He's been brilliant. Played for the Bournemouth under-18s under Alan Connell. He's come through the setup. He proved himself to be a top-class Championship player and really, really exciting. He's done well so far in the Premier League. Then you go into midfield. Jefferson Lerma, Colombia international. Phil Billing, international. Joe Rothwell. Pearson, of course, who they took from Preston. Lewis Cook won the World Cup as an under-17 for England. He's been brilliant. He had a fantastic campaign last season, getting them out of the Championship. And of course, someone with Premier League experience again. And then you get through into the attacking options. Anthony. Jadon Anthony's the same as Jordan Zamora, someone that came through that's not Anthony of Manchester United there.
He's taken a little change in route.
Yes. Jadon Anthony, another young, promising player that's come out of the Bournemouth Academy, played with the under-18s and the under-23s, worked with Sean Cooper, who's now involved in that trio of players that are taking, ex-players that are taking the reins at the moment. David Brooks, that's the brilliant name to see. You know, diagnosed with cancer. He's gone through that journey, back in full training with the football club. He was linked with moves to Manchester United not long ago for £45 million. That's how exciting and promising he is. Now, of course, there's no pressure on his shoulders. He's just signed a new contract at the football club, but great to see him once again in the mix here. Jamal Lowe, who scored crucial goals for them to get into the Premier League. Ryan Christie from Celtic. Emiliano Marcondes, who they signed on a free transfer last summer. Someone that was huge for Thomas Frank and Brentford. You know, they loved him at Brentford. And then you come over here to Junior Stanislas, more Premier League experience, of course. A few injuries at Tavernier, we've spoken about him. And then up front, Dominic Solanke, who scored 29 Championship goals last season. Once again, Premier League experience. Kiefer Moore, who's done it on the big stage, is a big part of what Wales are doing as well. Good experience in the EFL. And Siriki Dembele as well, who's another player potentially heading out of Bournemouth in this window. He's been a bit of a fringe player. But what you're looking at there are a great bunch of options, Premier League experience, a little bit of pace and energy. There's some good youthful energy in there as well. And you look at that, and yes, of course, it's going to be a challenge in the Premier League this season. But there are options there that make you more than comfortable that they can be competitive. Will it be difficult for Bournemouth this season? Absolutely. But are there players there that can give it a good go? Definitely.
Yeah.